As we get closer to the Oscars, it seems more and more likely that Oppenheimer will take home all the big awards. Just recently, it cleaned up at the BAFTAs, winning all the big awards: Best Actor, Supporting Actor, Director, Picture. And at the SAG Awards, the Screen Actor Guild Awards, it again cleaned up in all the big categories: Best Ensemble Cast, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. And, inspired by all these big wins, I wanted to go back and watch Oppenheimer for the first time at home. For the first time, it's out available on streaming on Peacock for free if you already own Peacock. But it's the first time it's been out on any streaming service, and I wanted to go back and watch it for a third time and just try and pick up what I missed the first time around. Now, I had already seen it in theaters, but I hadn't watched it in a couple months. So I wanted to see if it could live up to the at home experience in the same way it lived up to the IMAX experience in theaters. So let's fast forward a couple hours when it's daylight out after I watch this. I do have an OLED TV and some surround sound. You can probably see the speaker right over there. So that makes for a very cool viewing experience. The picture is phenomenal. Watching it in IMAX is one thing, and of course that is amazing. But when you kind of have your own personal experience and just the way the colors pop on a smaller screen, it's a little bit different. I think you just can take more of it in when you're not consumed by the huge IMAX screen. Now, the IMAX screen, like I said, is amazing, but I think just being able to focus in a little bit more allows you to take more in and get more out. Also, like I said, having that surround sound is I mean, when the atom bomb exploded, my floor was literally rumbling. The couch was rumbling. It was such a crazy, cool experience. The sound in the film is phenomenal. It didn't win for best sound, unfortunately, but it did win for best soundtrack. So, two different things, but I think both equally hit. I know Nolan is more well known for the picture and cinematography. Is obviously filmed in IMAX, the whole thing. So he's not as known for the sound elements, but the sound I think is incredible in the film. And you like again, I think having that at home experience is a little bit different. But besides that, being that this is the third time watching it, there's a lot of those smaller stories within the film that you're able to understand. Understanding who Lomans is, understanding the Chevalier incident, understanding the Colonel Patch scene. There was a lot happening because you already had the two storylines going back and forth, the fission and fusion, color and black and white, even though the black and white was present in that film and the color was actually the past, just according to the film's timelines. But a lot more can be taken out of it. The first time you watch the film, you're trying to keep track of so many things, right? You're trying to keep track of what year each storyline is in. You're trying to keep track of which characters are in which storyline. You're trying to keep track of the names. There's a lot going on, and I think now that I've seen it a third time, I can accurately say I understand which each character is. I understand what FAECT is now. I can understand which characters were, you know, kind of pushing that and pushing that political party and all of that. It makes a lot more sense. And the whole Colonel Patch scene when eventually Oppenheimer nearly like perjured himself, I guess to say. He almost gave the whole thing away. Like, that scene kind of that one went over my head a little bit the first time I saw it. I was just confused about who Lomans was. And Eltington and Chevalier, I was like, wait, who is who? So now understanding that Eltington was the shell guy who was in the films ever so briefly, and they give you a little flashback because the first time you see it, you might not catch the name, but that time you actually do, and you're like, oh, that's who he was initially going to him for, and then he didn't want to give up Chevalier, who was his friend. If you remember, he even brought his baby, after the scene with Emily Blunt's character where he comes home and the baby's crying and she's kind of on a bender, and he's like, yeah, we're not good parents. We don't know what we're doing here. And he kind of gave him a pass. He's like, well, you see the world in such a different way. It makes sense. And he offered to take his kid for him. Well, that's Chevalier, if you didn't catch that the first time around. And then there's that scene with Matt Damon and Cillian Murphy on the train where Matt Damon is like, you have to give up the name and volunteer it. I can't force you to do it. That'll be a bad look. And that's the whole Colonel Patch scene. And that is sort of what eventually led to the court, which was not a court, and him being in, him having his security clearance removed. That was one of the main things besides his previous relationships with Jean Tadlock, who was Florence Pugh, and just going to those events while he was professor at Berkeley. So all of that makes a lot more sense, and you can understand now the importance and significance of that Colonel Patch scene, which was just a very small scene throughout the whole 3-hour film, but was also a pivotal turning point in him having his security clearance removed, as that kind of gave him the credence to say, "Oh well, you really are more than just an associate of the communists or just someone who went to those events. But you can begin to see how all that makes a lot more sense now. I think the first time you're showing all of like the atom bomb and just everything happening, that watching it for a third time at home in a smaller environment with kind of everything focused just on you, the one viewer, is really helpful. So if you haven't watched it yet at home, if you have Peacock, it's free to stream there. And if you don't, it's like $5 a month, and plus you get like other stuff too. I'm not promoting Peacock, I'm just saying like it's not a bad deal if you want to check out Oppenheimer and whatever else they have on there. We'll see what happens with the Oscars, and yeah, it's just a phenomenal movie, one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I'm sure I'll watch it again someday soon. I almost wanted to watch it again right after that. It's just that good. It just flows so well.